Welcome back to our book talk segment of the day, and it's great to talk with a woman now who's written a very interesting book, a helpful book, a kind of a fun book as well. It's called Good Enough, a cookbook embracing the joys of imperfection and practicing self-care in the kitchen. We're joined today by Leanne Brown. You probably remember her from her previous book, a best-selling book called Good and Cheap, and she joined us now by telephone from, I believe, up in New York. And Leanne, good to talk with you. How are you?
I'm good. Yes, I'm in Brooklyn here, and it is a chilly day.
Oh, good. I was going to say, I know from reading the book, you're living up in New York. I grew up there, but you're originally from Canada, right? My mom was born in Canada. What part of the country were you from?
I am.
What part of Canada?
I'm from Edmonton, which is way
Edmonton.
west.
Okay. Great. Yeah, we were Newfoundlanders and Nova Scotia, so I guess that was the other side of the country, right?
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I wasn't, but my mother was. So I'm always interested in where people are from Canada. But you're in my hometown area, so great to always talk to an adopted New Yorker now, I guess. But first of all, congratulations not only on this book, but the previous book. I was reading the notes about that as well, the Good and Cheap book. That was basically a college thesis that you turned into a book, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly what it was. It came out of my master's degree in food studies, and it's called Good and Cheap, and it was for people who are living on about $4 a day, which is like an average SNAP or food stamps sort of budget. And so it was really meant to be a resource for folks who are living on a really small budget, really limited budget. And it was a wonderful experience writing that book, putting it out into the world. We made it freely available online, and I was able to speak with so many people from so many different experiences in life who shared their stories with me, and it meant so much. And it really ultimately led to this book today because, I was coming from this place of thinking like, okay, one of the biggest barriers to eating, for people to eat the way that they want to and the way that supports their bodies, is money. And certainly it's a huge, huge issue. But it's not all there is. And as I was talking to so many people, I noticed this really sort of which was that so many people were holding so much terrible self-judgment about themselves. They would say, like, oh, I'm a terrible cook. I'm not good enough. I do everything wrong. I don't do things in a healthy way. I don't have a good schedule. There's just so much of them feeling like they were bad at whatever they were doing. And often, the more I would talk and listen, they were doing just fine, but they just had these really, really high standards for themselves that were often unrealistic and really just sort of punishing for them. And I couldn't look away from this because I saw myself reflected in that. I was the same way. I used to be, still am struggling with so much perfectionism, and it's just so kind of common in food culture. And so I really wanted to create a book that reframed cooking away from that perfectionism, away from this sort of results-oriented, I want to make the perfect sourdough, and that's all that matters, to really focusing more on the process of cooking and how we can calmly appreciate ourselves and actually practice self-care when we're cooking for ourselves, and know that, even if the sourdough isn't perfect, is far from perfect, what matters is that we made the effort and that we cared for ourselves and we are feeding ourselves, and let that really be enough, because it is. Our homes are not restaurants. Our homes are not, food magazines. We need to have realistic, fair standards for ourselves. And doing that, it's not only that it's important and it's a relief, but it's healing. When we judge ourselves in these harsh ways day in and day out, it's painful. And it sort of takes our energy away from us. And the point of a meal is to give us energy and make us feel connected and good and vital. And when the way that we're doing that is actually hurting ourselves, it's such a sadness to me. And so I wanted to try to address that and kind of define it too.
You make a good point about that, because I think a lot of people are intimidated by cooking in a sense. A lot maybe from watching those shows on TV. It has to look perfect, or even just in commercials or magazine pictures of food. I guess people, they feel intimidated by it, right? That's part of it.
Totally. Well, yeah, that's part of it. And I think a lot of the time it's because if you didn't maybe grow up surrounded by a lot of cooking at home, you may think that that's what cooking looks like, because that's the vision that you have. Is seeing it on TV, seeing it in magazines or on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And that's not reality, right? We don't have studio lighting in our home. And it's actually not normal for even these incredibly talented chefs do not eat these full elaborate meals for every meal. They eat toast like everyone else. They eat oatmeal for breakfast. We all eat a variety of foods, and often with the majority of our meals are just basic and simple and satisfying. And that is okay and that is normal. But it can be really hard to start and to feel like you're ever having success when you have these, strange, unrealistic sort of standards that are created by these people sort of outside of ourselves.
I like how you set up the book as well, kind of a unique way for a cookbook. It's not in the traditional way of formatting, too. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, it was challenging figuring out how to format it because I knew, I wanted to have recipes and I wanted to talk about all these things, and I knew it couldn't just be like, oh, breakfast, lunch, dinner, appetizers, and that kind of thing. So we have it kind of structured as these are the ways to get through your day. So we sort of have morning, afternoon, and evening, like what are our needs at these different times of day. And then we have sort of getting through life. We have meals sort of for times when things are really hard, when you're either depressed or life is really hard, or maybe, you're dealing with grief or all of the things that life throws at you. And then there's connecting with yourself, cooking just for you, and then cooking when you're more expansive and joyful. And then finally, sort of the last chapter is really about cooking for others and sort of putting, having a party or having dinner with a larger group of people. And I think that's kind of as it should be. It's like the more, I think often we go from like, I want to learn to cook so that I can have a big dinner party. And it's like, well, if we don't learn how to really cook for ourselves and connect with ourselves and learn what we need, it can be really hard to make that leap from into cooking for others, because we can be so kind of fragile about what if people don't like it? What if they reject me? And it can be this really difficult thing to navigate when someone sets down a plate of food in front of me and they're standing there kind of shaking with like, please like it, please like me. It's like, we need to separate. There's a difference between someone liking you and liking the food that you prepare. It's a completely different thing, but they often get sort of mixed up. I know I've certainly done that many times to people like, please, this is my way of expressing love and you have to love it or I'll feel so rejected. And it's like, it's not that deep, but it can be hard when you put so much effort and care into it.
Yeah, most often, and I understand from what you're talking about, I think we all have a little bit of perfectionism, and particularly when you do a creative kind of job, you're always thinking that, and the person you're presenting it to or listening to or whatever you do, they don't think that way. So you're putting more in your head than should be there, right?
They usually don't, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And it just causes you pain. So just the more often we can notice we're doing that and let it go, I think the better. And the better it will be for, like you said, you do that in our job. We do that in our parenting. We do it in so many aspects of our lives. So if we can learn to do it in the kitchen, we can probably learn to do it other places too.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, just about out of time. I just want to mention again, there's nearly 100 recipes in the book. And again, great recipes, by the way, but also some of your thoughts along the way, which are very entertaining and I'm sure helpful for a lot of people. And the name of the book is again called Good Enough, a Cookbook. You want to give out your website, Leanne? People get more information?
Yeah, it's just Leanne Brown, Leanne, Brown, just like the color.com. And I'd love to connect with you on there. You can follow me on Instagram as well. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Great. Leanne, pleasure talking to you. Thanks for being with us, and hopefully we can talk again.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Doug.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.